Hello, hello. In these AI files, I wanted to explore pairing with people and see their AI workflows. In this particular session, I'm pairing with Tomasz Tomczyk, who is the creator of Crit, but we go through his skills, command files, like his workflow. We talk a little bit about what he does in his personal projects versus work, a whole host of things. It's a great pairing session. Thank you, Tomasz, for doing this with me, and I hope you all enjoyed it as much as I did. Tomasz, thanks for joining me, man. And do you want to give a little intro about yourself? Maybe just where you live, where you're coming from, and then whenever you're ready, we can share that screen.
Sure. Thanks for having me. My name is Tomasz Tomczyk. I'm a staff engineer at Vetspire, where we work in Elixir and React. It's a 10-year-old code base in Elixir, and I've been there for 6 years. So it's been a lot of fun seeing it evolve over the years. And yeah, in my spare time, I work on side projects as much as possible to keep flexing my muscles, and I keep purchasing domain names that end up being wasted. But yeah, I thought today we could pair on something I called Crit. So I'll start with sharing my screen.
Nice. Thank you. I love that you are willing to pair and show us all your good AI stuff. And
Yeah.
we're all in the side project world, right? Like we have a million of those. I can relate to the domain name stuff. I have to stop myself from buying domain names all the time.
It's an expensive hobby. But yeah, so since February, I've been working on Crit. Crit is a local first tool for reviewing all your agentic output. So anytime you get Claude or any of your agents to write a markdown plan, you can review it in Crit, which gives you a browser-based interface with beautifully rendered markdown. And then also once you get to completing some code with agents, you can look at the diffs and kind of do like a local PR review. You leave comments. You submit that, Claude or whatever agent you use will iterate on that feedback and kind of give you the next round. So
Sorry, you can submit, you can edit, you can do like code reviews right there in the
yeah,
UI. Oh, cool.
yeah, absolutely. So if I launch it on, let's see, let's find any work tree, and if I launch Crit, of course,
Can I ask a question even off the top?
yeah, please.
So you're using Git work trees. Are they called work trees?
Yes,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
use work trees.
Do you use anything in particular for that? Like I use work trunk, I think it's called, but or do you just do the normal Git commands for it?
Yeah, I've adopted work trunk. Claude was just messing up work trees on its own so much that it was really painful. So yeah, what you see here is lots of work trees. I guess maybe I should say in terms of my directory structure, I have a kind of pseudo monorepo of Crit. Because there are two components to Crit. Crit, which is actually written in Go and plain JavaScript to be like a lightweight local first tool. And Crit Web, which is the Elixir part, the website. That's the Elixir, Phoenix Elixir web app, where you can share your Markdown files and collaborate on them with others. Without having to use GitHub, because yeah, a lot of teams, I don't think they've settled on like how do we share plans, how do we collaborate on plans. So this is the Crit Web aspect of this is like the answer to that problem.
Got
Um,
it. And sorry,
um,
I can stop interrupting, but one more question. Can I ask a question? Sorry.
yeah, please.
Yeah. In your team, are you currently like sharing plans and stuff like that? Are you using Crit with your team?
So most of my day work is solo, but whenever I do want feedback on my plans, I do share them with my team in Crit, and yeah, they leave feedback there, and yeah, we take it from there.
Cool. Love it. Sorry. Okay, I'll
It's
stop
been
interrupting. This is
no,
just so cool.
it's been really useful for dogfooding. For some reason, obviously, now that we're doing a demo, it refuses to launch. So please do edit this out for.
No worries. That's the normal, yeah. Coding live, always a normal thing.
There we go. So this is what crit looks like when you're launching it in a branch or a work tree. So it's basically your GitHub PR style view showing you the diff. And you can leave comments. And then whenever you finish, the agent normally listens and acts on these comments in response. But we'll see it because we'll use it as well for the feature that we're gonna pair on, if that's okay.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So what you can imagine Crit Web to be is a lot like Gist at GitHub, right? You're sharing files and people leave comments on them. That's kind of the main part of the web interface. So right now, the only way to share files with my hosted service is through the local app. There's a share button and there's a CLI command. Now, the feature that I wanted to build is allowing users to manually upload files from the web interface. Because I've had somewhat less technical people start using Crit for like reviewing PRDs, sprint planning documents, and so on. So I wanted to expose the ability to just upload something directly here and collaborate on it. So I've got a little outline of a linear issue for this that kind of has a high level, I guess, criteria for an acceptance criteria for what we want to do with this. So in terms of like working with AI, I used Grill Me skill to write this app, which essentially asks you questions one at a time. We got 32 questions for this simple feature, and just figures out what the scope should be and so on. And then I had it write it up in a linear issue.
Got it. So this was just the Grill Me skill. You're then Claude or something, and it's hitting you. I imagine you have an initial prompt, and then it goes and goes.
Yeah, so this is from Matt Pocock. Essentially, it's literally this. You can copy paste this. You don't need the skill itself, but interview me about this idea, this feature, until we have like basically really thorough acceptance criteria. So I used that, and initially I just said, "Hey, I want a direct file upload for sharing for Crit. Grill me about it," and that's how we arrived at all of this criteria here.
Nice.
So yeah, so that's my first step. Gonna get to a high level overview of a feature, of a problem. And now we use linear for managing these. And then, so from my terminal where I have both Crit and Crit Web directories, that's usually where I start my chats. And I say, let's use superpowers, writing plans.
Yeah, love superpowers. Good stuff.
Let's write a plan to address. And yeah, linear is connected here. And it will find the acceptance criteria that we've got. And we'll start writing a spec. So this is the part where you might want to edit some of it because it will take like 7 minutes or so to do it. But at the same time, I can talk a little bit about what my skills and agents are, maybe.
Yeah, that sounds good. Yeah, I know we can always like fast forward some of these things.
Yeah.
But I'd love to hear about all this. Yeah, the skills, all this stuff. That's the new sauce, right? That's how things work now.
Yeah. So I'm fairly lightweight in terms of plugins, etc. I do like using agents a lot. So if I open my Claude agents, I have a couple agent definitions for like language-specific experts, front-end expert, Elixir expert, Go expert. And I basically had Claude come up with these, write me an agent prompt that is an Elixir expert, and have it study, the most prominent Elixir code bases in the community, and establish some patterns and best practices, etc. And it kind of came up with that agent prompt. And I think a lot of the times, if I don't use Elixir or language-specific agent, I end up just having issues that would have been caught otherwise. So those prompts, what you feed in the conversations, really matter. And I like starting fresh conversations for a lot of these things. So when I write a plan, I will have Elixir agent review it. I will have front-end experts review it. And I don't look at it until they've gone through it in their own new conversations. So that helps kind of uncover a lot of issues early on. And then when it is written, I review it with Crit, which we'll see in action shortly.
Got it. So do you trigger the agents manually? It's not like they're doing it automatically in some kind of orchestration layer or something. It's like you're saying, I review it as the Elixir expert kind of thing.
Yeah, at the moment it's fairly manual. I just say, hey, have Elixir experts review this, have front-end experts review this. I am starting to do more and more in terms of automating that stuff. So one of my growing collections inside the Crit project, I've got commands here. So I might have one. Is a really good one, release audit. So before any release, when I've accumulated maybe a dozen commits or so, I run, and I'm gearing up for a new release, I run a release audit, which will kind of figure out all the commits that have happened since the last release, make sure there's nothing accidentally deleted, because I've had Claude do that. And then it will dispatch agents in parallel that will do a review. If there are Go changes, Go expert will do this. We're looking for refactoring opportunities. You might have had 4 different features add something that now could be abstracted away. That sort of stuff. So refactoring, test caps, performance, and so on, kind of looking at the bigger picture. I find that's really important with vibe-coded stuff, because admittedly, it is a side project. I don't have hours and hours to read through all of it and make sure it works perfectly. But you want to give as much guardrails and kind of these layers of review to try and maintain somewhat reasonable quality of the code base. At the end of the day, it's still vibe coded, right? So you will run into issues. But
I love this. This kind of falls in my mind in the category of like verification harness stuff, right? Like where right at several layers at intervals, you have this sort of self-reinforcing mechanism, or just checking, right, that these things are working. I like this release audit. I could use it for Phoenix test, something like that. Do you know, like, do you evolve this? Or is this like a one, was this like a one question and it's like good enough and it's been running? Or do you find that you catch new things and make them add it to it and stuff like that?
What I think is a killer aspect of my commands is at the end of each of these commands, or most of these commands, there's a retrospective step. If this went smoothly, what we just did, it's fine, don't force it. But if anything caused friction, like, we checked out the wrong branch, or we had some uncommitted stuff, or some dependencies weren't installed, then, or there was something caught in the review that should really be part of the audit, then Claude will ask me, hey, do you want to update that so that we remember this in the next time? So a lot of this release audit and a lot of these other commands, like the shipping command, which goes through and, that does like checks, all the pre-commit checks, and checks if we need to update documentation. And a lot of these things weren't there to begin with. And because I had this retrospective at the end of these commands, they evolve, they self-heal, they self-grow. And every now and then, I have another manual kind of review steps saying, hey, look at all the commands. Is there anything in our automated checks now that doesn't need to be spelled out here because it wastes context, right?
That is awesome. I love that. I've been experimenting with like a task observer, which is similar concept. It's called, what is that? Like one skill to rule them all or something like that is the repo. But it's the same kind of concept that it watches your session, and at the end you can say, hey, any observations and things. But I like this one too because this is like much more specific self-healing of that particular skill. So I like this. I just jotted it down in my notebook. I'm going to steal that one. That's a great one.
The other thing is I chain these, so I might have a crit fix command that will just take a GitHub issue or a linear issue and just solve it, right? But as part of it, it will, at some point here, it will launch crit review, and then crit ship once it's reviewed it, and then obviously retrospective at the end. So yeah, you can start chaining these commands. So sometimes when I'm working on something solo and I'm iterating, I might just do a crit review every now and then. But if I just know something is kind of manageable, a small size issue, then I might just say, hey, crit fix, take it and run with it. And I don't look at it until it's like PR level.
I love that. I think that's it's a very interesting distinction. I mean, I know you said vibe coded, but I think there's sort of like the people are making a distinction with agentic engineering and like, or even like dark factories or software factory. And it's like, you can compose them of these sort of workflows. And I feel like that's what with the crit fix that you just showed me, sort of a workflow of like skills being called on each other. That doesn't mean you won't necessarily have to intervene at some point, but maybe you would, like you just said, sometimes you let it run, like depends on the task, right? Which I love, but this is really cool. I like this. Have you do you introduce these also with your team at work, or do you find that harder? I don't know. I'm curious what like.
At work, we still haven't like consolidated our approaches. We don't even all use the same agent. So we're kind of still in the, I'd say, infancy phase of incorporating AI. And I think, a lot of the team is kind of exploring in different ways. We're just going through those exercises now and starting to share more and consolidate and so on.
Got it. Yeah. Makes sense. I feel like that's the norm, right? Like explore on side project. That's one of the helpful things. Projects is to explore things more quickly. Yeah.
Absolutely, less of a risk. But anyway, we've got a plan here, and this is what I hated about Claude. Right? You've got 1,000 lines of Markdown, and it gives you a little summary, and then it's like, oh, do you want to execute that now? And I'm like, I have no idea what you've just written, right? So this is where crit comes in. So if I launch the /crit command, what it will do is kind of in CLI in the terminal launch crit on that plan, and now we see the whole Markdown file and we can read it, the 1,000 lines, and actually reason about it, and we can leave comments on it. So I won't do maybe the most thorough review here. We can eyeball this a little bit and see if anything stands out. The other thing that I'm not a massive fan of in terms of superpowers is that they write a lot of code in the plans. And that's not necessarily, to me, what I would expect in a planning phase, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's like going too deep into the details in some regard, right? You want it at a higher level.
Yeah.
Have you experimented? I saw this, I don't know if I saw it on a tweet or something, with like HTML as an output rather than Markdown. I've been recently doing a couple of those, and it can condense information. I mean, code you can't condense that well, right? But it can condense some other types of information in a much more readable way.
I'll show you something once we've implemented this that I think speaks to that a lot, but I'll save it for the end if that's okay. Plans, I I like Markdown. I've got Crit to render it and reason about it. So I don't really have the problem that HTML would solve for it, I don't think. But anyway, so I might leave a comment here and say we have an existing settings module. And this should be configurable. Let's leave me a comment somewhere. Here. So it's talking about the drop target for drag and drop behavior. What I might just say, ensure this is following best practices from Phoenix Live Cloud. So again, I won't spend a lot of time because I think it will make a boring video. But once I go through in a lot of detail and leave, a dozen comments or so, I hit finish review, and then the agent is notified about this, and it sees my comments in a JSON file, and will start making changes based on what I left, and then it will respond as well, so I can see what it's done. I can see its reasoning, and even a diff for the markdown.
What I love about this is that because you're using because Crit is a review tool, like you're dog fooding even now, like not even just with your team, even right now it helps you.
It made it very easy to build up a backlog of things because I use it, a dozen times a day. So yeah, very, very easy.
Nice. I love that. That's great. That's great. Nothing like using your own software for understanding the pain points, right?
Yeah.
That was cool. I like how is it review complete? Let's keep going and I'll ask that question in a second, or maybe it's not. I was gonna ask, you submitted that review and somehow that's submitting that review back to your Claude Code session, right?
Yeah.
Interesting.
So it's what happens is the initial Crit CLI call spawns a daemon that runs in the background and watches for events from the browser, right? And anytime you submit a comment, it gets written to a JSON file. Now, Claude has a very annoying behavior where you cannot externally stream messages to it. So the Crit command that Claude launched earlier here, run one shell, I think it's in here. Crit and then the file path. It has to exit to be able to continue, right? So when you finish review in Crit, the command exits. There's a standard out saying, hey, the user has finished, left some comments, find them here. But then obviously you might go through rounds and rounds of this back and forth. So yeah, the daemon in the background is kind of watching for changes in these files, and you can see Claude's making edits now, and we can see two edits.
Interesting. So and that daemon is the Go. You said there was like a
Go.
That's
the Go part.
That makes sense now.
Entirely vibe coded as well. But yeah, that's monitoring and sending updates to the browser, saying there's some edits done. And at the end of this process, we tell Claude, hey, launch Crit again so that it can be a blocking process again. And that begins round 2 of our editing. And it's kind of this loop that we go through.
Got it. I mean, that's really cool, though. Both, I mean, unfortunately, that Claude doesn't let you stream that stuff. But the fact that you built this loop and even... Yeah. Do you know how to write Go? Do you know?
No.
Or no? Not
a single line.
I love it. I love it. I mean,
yeah,
it's really incredible what you can do without knowing the language, right? Like the power that it gives you.
Yeah, it is a little bit scary because I'm dealing with people's plans, and later you can use this to review diffs. So it is a little bit scary, and I think there's a lot of guardrails around automated testing. The test suite for this project is huge, bigger than anything I've ever done professionally before agentic coding. There's end-to-end testing with Playwright that literally clicks around and does all this stuff that we're doing in the browser. There's integration testing between Crit and Crit Web, all sorts of things. So I think if you are doing kind of more towards that vibe spec and end of the spectrum, I think you're really doing a disservice to yourself and your users if you're not investing in this heavy guardrails, linting, automated testing setup, and the layers of review that I mentioned.
Yeah, I mean that stuff that's where I feel like is the core of right now is like if we can produce code at such a fast pace, how do we ensure, aside from looking at it, because some code review becomes a bottleneck, and there's sort of this question like, can we no longer code review, right? Can we do it without having to look at the code? Having those guardrails, having the harnesses and all this stuff. So just as out of curiosity, what else do you have in your Go? It's just you have the full test suite. You also mentioned the Playwright end-to-end tests that go from the UI all the way, executing the Elixir and the Go, I'm assuming. What other guardrails or things do you have that help you feel at least like, hey, this is that you can trust that Go?
I guess, yeah, the end-to-end test suite, the unit tests, the integration tests that hit the Elixir web server and back. That's most of it. There are, like linting stuff to make the code base a little bit more maintainable and easier to work with for Claude, and any humans who are brave enough to venture into it. And then in terms of the security aspects and like make sure we don't mess up your local file system, I don't think there's anything automated for something like that. So it is just those layers of review with Go agent, expert Go agent from that previous wherever it was, here talking about all the things you need to be caring about, handling errors, concurrency, and etc. So it does catch a lot of things that initial Claude implementation messes up and leaves in a messy state where you can maybe have some corruption after editing files. At the end of the day, I mean, it is a side project, and most of the editing happens on the like JSON files that was the metadata that contain the metadata for the reviews. So it's not the end of the world if something goes wrong, and Claude is the one actually making edits to your code bases. So I don't feel too responsible if something.
Yeah, no, and I don't mean it that way. I think it's just, to me, that's the thing that's still like breaking my brain, that I'm trying to think about, like, how do we add more and more of this like infrastructure so that we can trust the code more and more, right? Like the more we can trust it, the more we can let it do its thing. I love you have a ton of layers here, which are great. So
yeah, for what it's worth, where I think it is a little bit more important for this project, the Crit Web, and that's why I chose Elixir for it, because I'm more comfortable with it and I can read the code and point out issues, because that is where I am storing people's plans, and their authentication stuff from GitHub and so on. So yeah, it is a little bit more risk averse by going with something a language that I am familiar with and comfortable working.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Anyway, so we see round 2 launched. We see highlights of the parts of the Markdown file that changed, and we can toggle it and a def of it, which is really nice. Again, not something that you have in a terminal.
This is so nice. Yeah, I love that the workflow. I mean, very GitHub-like, right? And but
yeah, very, very much inspired.
It's a great way to review code. I like it. I mean, I like that way of reviewing code for sure.
Yeah. But yeah, we can then see, okay, it's starting to use the settings module to contain some of the limits, which is great. We can mark this comment as resolved. We've got a little comment side panel here that makes it easy to click and navigate to the comments. So we can go through them. We're happy with this as well. And now, so it didn't use the Phoenix Live uploads in that first version, but it's now rewritten it. So that's great. So let's say we're happy with this and we can approve this plan, which again goes back to the terminal here. Claude will see no new comments and wants to continue to implementation. So at this point, I do execute normally with subagents, but I always tell it, hey, execute with Elixir's expert agent.
Got it. Nice. This is where we get to see that. Okay.
Do it in a new work tree. So yeah, here we're going to wait another 7 minutes or so for it to kick it off.
Yeah, this is great. I mean, I love it. Once this is done, what kind of? I know do you go through the same? Well, no, the crit stuff was just for no, it's not just for the plans, right?
No, yeah. So
what?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can use it on the branch once it has it in a finished state. Then you review it like you would a PR. So yeah, we'll get to see that part again, and that's just a case of launching crit again when it's finished. The command has some context there saying like, depending on what you worked on, launch it on the file. If it is like a markdown file you just finished, or if it's a branch, then launch it from that working.
And do you do any other, like, once this is finished, do you have any other skills that you run it through? Kind of like you had for the plan, like just iterations or layers or anything else? Or does it, I mean, you've done a lot already. Do you find that this is usually like pretty good by the point you get to the implementation?
So normally what I would do before looking at a plan or the branch, I ask, hey, do a Elixir expert review, do a front-end expert review, do a review against the code base. Is this plan saying things that are consistent with how the rest of the code base is set up? So that might catch things like, hey, these settings shouldn't just be module attribute that we cut here. They shouldn't just be magic attributes here. We have a module for it. So normally when I am working by myself, it's do as much of this independent reviewing as possible before I look at it, because me looking at it and calling it out is a waste of my time, right?
Yeah, for sure. Right. Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, normally I go through like 1 or 2 rounds of, hey, just have Elixir agent review this and call out any issues. It can get a little bit silly if every round of doing that, it finds new stuff. It makes me mad. Like, why didn't you call it out the first time? Or, hey, you were the one who wrote this. Why did you miss that? So it can be a little frustrating. So you can't trust them yet.
Yeah. Okay. Do you ever use other agents for that kind of thing? Not agents as in like the Elixir expert agent, but I mean like other models. Sorry. Yeah.
I don't. I tried jumping between codecs a little while ago. I think I just got fatigued and overwhelmed with the different kind of configurations and different ways of working. I think the models have their own quirks, and in my opinion, it pays off to working with one model and learn what it usually misses or where it needs more help. And then you get used to it and start writing better prompts that catch it, right? Whereas if you jump to another model, is it going to recognize all these skills? Is the syntax for how they do skills or plugins different? Do they even support plugins? So yeah, I get used to one setup and I feel like I'm fairly productive with it. So I don't. But yeah, I've heard of a lot of people that do writing with one model, reviewing with another model, implementation with a original model or a third one and so on. But yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't think I thought more like in the adversarial stuff of like you wrote it with this model and then you review it with the other one. But
Mm.
that's basically what you're saying. Yeah, if you write it and then you code with the different one and then yeah, that's kind of thing. That actually made me think though, what because you're using Claude Code, right? So what Anthropic models are you using? Do you mostly use I actually have no idea. I didn't even look.
Yeah, I use Opus 4.6 still, mostly just because I think it's cheaper or uses less of the tokens or the subscription than 4.7. And I didn't find a difference for the tasks and the work I'm doing in terms of quality between 4.6 and 4.7. It's about the same. So yeah, I've kind of just dropped it back to 4.6. When I'm close to hitting my weekly limits, I do switch to Sonnet for, like some chit chatting or specking, like the grill me that can easily be done with Sonnet. It doesn't need Opus. Refining features and cards and so on. Like that doesn't require heavy thinking, right? So yeah, I occasionally get a little bit more token conscious when I'm close to my weekly limits. The other thing that helps me a lot with managing the weekly limits is context mode, which is a plugin for Claude that reduces the token consumption by, I think, caching out of the requests
Cool.
that Claude is making.
Interesting.
So if it looks up the same files over and over, I think it helps with that. And I haven't done like deep comparison, but I found just anecdotally using a lot less context using context mode. So I recommend that.
Nice, nice. Yeah, I mean, I was curious because I also dropped to Opus 4.6. I didn't find any use. Like it just, yeah, I didn't find a significant improvement in 4.7, and
Mm.
um, I I think I've been usually mostly Opus at work, and I've actually been exploring at home. I've been in my side projects using GPT 5.5, the new which has been pretty good. I don't know. I haven't put it through its paces necessarily, um, but I like using open code instead of
Mm.
Claude Code, and since Anthropic stopped supporting like the subscription through third party tools, you can only use the subscription with. I don't even know. There's a new change anyway. I don't all
Yeah,
that stuff.
yeah,
That pushed me to try some OpenAI models again, but
yeah. In a way, competition is good, right? And having
yes,
options. We're really spoiled for choice these days when you think about it. So
there's so
uh,
many. Yeah,
I
yeah,
think it just makes it risky if you're a big company and want to like have a long-term contract with Anthropic or someone else. And I think that's maybe a risky decision to commit for a long time because this landscape is changing so quickly.
yeah. And that's the thing. That's another thing. How like it changes so fast, right? Like it's I don't know. How have you been keeping up? Because it just I don't know. Yeah, how do you keep up with all this stuff?
I normally accept I'm gonna be a couple weeks behind for some of these things because when I try to keep up with the latest best practices and all the influencers who post every day about here's a new skill, here's a new workflow, here's a new plugin, I got burned out so quickly trying to do that. um,
Yeah,
so,
that's
so now I accept, look, I'm fairly productive, I'd like to think. It might not be the most optimal setup that you can think of. But every now and then, I go through and create these reusable commands, reusable skills, agent prompts for things that I repeat over and over. For my work, I have actual like subject matter experts who are specialized in a given code base area or a feature or an epic. And that gets me very far, I think. And yeah, for everything else, like Anthropic releases a new feature in Cloud Code or whatever, I find when I try to use them the first week or the first 2 weeks, they don't work quite 100%. They're shipping quickly, and that's great, but everyone else is beta testing for them, and it just gets really frustrating. Like, I get Claude to explain, hey, how do I use this new feature? And Claude doesn't know. So the documentation isn't quite up to date or whatever. And yeah, it's just really frustrating. So I've given up trying to keep up like to the cutting edge of what's happening. And instead, I just take that. I'm going to be delayed. And once, enough people post about the same thing, on Hacker News and newsletters, Slack channels, and I see something repeat a lot, like the context mode, that's how I discovered it. It was just repeated in a few places that came up. I was like, yeah, I'll try it now. That's been tested and validated by more than just one YouTuber.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I 100% agree with that. It's like if you want to be on the bleeding edge, you're gonna pay a price of like a lot of thrashing or a lot of all that stuff. And so if you're a little bit behind, it's totally fine, and you get that benefit that everybody else has kind of smoothed out the kinks and whatnot. So no, that checks out. That makes sense. At least to me, that's kind of how I've been approaching it. And I like what you said about the there's this concept of like triangulation, I think, which is like once you see something 3 times in I don't know what kind of span of time, say a week or something, you finally are like more like registering it. So I think that's a cool way of adopting new things. Like you're saying, if I see it multiple times, then maybe I check it out, because there's so much. There's just so many, like there's this new, they're just literally markdown files everywhere. And so
yeah.
Okay.
I did the same with impulse purchases. I need if I'm spending like more than £100 on something, I need to want it on 3 separate occasions before I let myself buy it. Because so
yeah, I like that triangulation, or the 3 time, the 3. I don't know. I may be making up the word triangulation. It's like there's a 3 time rule or something.
No, coin it, mate. Everyone's coining new phrases, new practice. Triangulate. Let me interrupt it and do.
So how did you interrupt that? Like, does it actually work?
So when you have this list of tasks, if you type something and then hit escape, it will read what you wrote and then act on it. So yeah, it's
Interesting. I feel like
the remaining task.
I don't think I knew that. I don't think I knew that with Claude Code, because again, I've used more open code than anything else, but I don't. Maybe open code has a way of interrupting as well. That's interesting. I like that. Is it only when you have multiple tasks, or anytime it's running, it just
anytime it's running, you can interrupt it. But obviously, here, because it's kind of outlining each step, it's a bit easier to interrupt mid steps, rather than if you have just one continuous task, it might not end up writing anything depending on when you interrupt it.
That makes sense, right? It has like a way of keeping track where it's interrupted, basically. So I love that it combined tasks 6 through 9.
Yeah, suddenly it found a lot more efficiency. We'll interrupt it here just because we've got kind of proof of concept a little bit. It's not fully done. But when I get to like endpoint like this, it's pretty basic. It works, but what I like to do is design explore skill, which launches a kind of UI UX prototyping on a given form element. So here it's pretty basic. What it will do is take this form into a standalone HTML file with light and dark mode like we have. And then once I'm happy with what the standalone example of this feature looks like, it will launch 5 sub-agents from different companies' design backgrounds and can re-implement a given feature in that company's design style. So if we look at what that looks like.
That's awesome. So is this a skill you wrote? Is this something you found somewhere else?
It's a skill I wrote. I open sourced it. I'll link it in the notes, I
Please.
guess.
I love that. And do you choose the 5 companies?
No, it chooses itself based on the context of the feature, which is really fun. It makes me not have to think much at all.
I love that. That's cool.
Oh, where is it? Oh, it's another. So I'm just going to say, so open base. So this is what it prototyped as a standalone HTML file. And it listed 5 companies that will now take a stab at implementing this UI in that company's style. Because I'm a terrible designer, so I often reach for inspiration. And yeah, that will give me 5 different versions for this to kind of compare. And I might say, hey, I like the buttons from one company, and I like the form from another company, etc. So yeah, then you end up with a kind of best of whatever you saw.
I love it. Does it take into account your existing styles, or is that basically?
Yeah. So this base component or base version of this file is based on what we produced, right? So it will take this as a starting point and extract it into a standalone HTML. So then the sub-agents from these companies only now need to look at this HTML file and not the whole code base. So yeah, they'll it's a relief because I think this is really cool.
No, I'm loving this. This is brilliant.
I've got it as so, yeah, give it a component. You can either provide the list of companies, or it will come up with its own. I don't think there are defaults. Maybe there are defaults. Oh yeah, default. Create the base file. I will always want to review what the base file looks like, because sometimes it misses things that actually I want to consider this component or this part of the UI.
So that's why it shows you the initial version. It's like this.
Yeah, and it gives a little pause. So that's why I check this out. I open it in the browser, click around, make sure it's fine. Sometimes it makes it like interactive as well with like JavaScript. Again, really cool that we can do it. But yeah, linear is down. So if we open linear, you can see a very different approach to this form already.
This is brilliant. I love this. I love this. Yeah, this is such a good idea. Like having so, and it's just creating this again, the standalone HTML.
Yeah.
And it pulled the HTML from the original feature, right? It created the standalone HTML, and then you're having 5 sub-agents go, and they each create their own little HTML file.
Yeah, and in the comments here, it explains kind of what the components are, and like where you should be redesigning things. This is the part to redesign. It's very clever. I'm very proud of this because it made it so much easier to iterate on UI, UX.
Yeah, this is brilliant.
I was very worried that I would end up with like 5 different very similar looking examples, but honestly, the simple prompt saying, hey, you're a designer from Monzo. I think normally I get the agents to actually research the design language first. So I don't know exactly what it does behind the scenes, I'll be honest, but it seems to be heavily inspired and does produce like, ish looking designs, but it's different enough from my base that it inspires me. Like, hey, I didn't think about tabs for this interface. Is that useful? This is just listing.
Do you know, is it going to, like,
Oh no,
is it
it's finished. Um,
is it
so
using MCPs of any kind, or like how is
no,
it?
no, no.
It's just going out to the internet and trying to
It's
find designs from
yeah, yeah,
GitHub
yeah.
or
It's
whatever.
literally just following. It's you could copy paste these prompts that it's sending to these agents in a first conversation. Give it the HTML file and it will do
Right,
it.
yeah, yeah.
So
I didn't know
here's
for some reason it was triggering into some MCP or something, but no.
GitHub Raycast. Yeah, it's already looking very different, and it's such a simple component and UI when you think about it.
That's
So
fascinating.
and Notion, yeah, like less
Very
borders.
different. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's like you said, it's a very simple
Yeah,
form, like
this was
type of
our
thing. But
starting point, which was very boring, admittedly. But now you have a little bit more flavor um, from all of the. You can pick and
oh,
choose the
this is
elements you
great.
like.
Yeah, this is great. So
Suddenly,
when you choose one, how do you apply it? Like, I'm assuming maybe this you can just tell it which one you like or something.
yeah.
Does it
So
manage to apply it all the way back?
I often just say, take the GitHub style component and let's implement it. It's as simple as that. Or I might say, take GitHub, but actually I like this boxed notification prompt for calling out to sign in, or maybe having this keyboard shortcut visible, that sort of stuff. So yeah, mix and match, and then I'll just do it back on your original design. Which makes it easier, right? You now, all of this happened in sub-agents contexts, and we just have the output of it, and it then clobber up this conversation's context. So I find that that's also very useful and good for
Yeah,
preserving the quality of the original conversation.
the use of subagents crucial, right, for that, so that
Yeah,
we don't like muddy the context and all that stuff. No, that's brilliant.
absolutely. But yeah, I think this might be like a good stopping point. We normally from here I end up doing the design iterations, and once I like it, the other thing that I do, I won't go through the whole flow with Claude, but I launch Crit on this branch, right? And I review the code as well. Now it's in Elixir and HTML and so on. So this is something I can look at the code and reason about it and leave comments here, look at the tests it's using and make sure it's all kind of up to the standards, and do another round of like Elixir expert review or the Crit review, which does like a security performance audits as well. So yeah, the flow.
This is brilliant. I really appreciate it, Tomasz. This is awesome. Like it's what I really love about it is like there's pieces that I feel like I use. There's little things, but like seeing someone, everybody has like just like I said, you have your own workflow, and people at your company, your day job, it's not the same, right? Because everybody can kind of create these custom workflows, and even something maybe for Crit might be different than something for something else, but there's still reusable parts of it. So, man, I know I really, really appreciate this. I mean, it's very selfish of me, but I'm loving that. Like, I'm getting so much information, so much insight into how other people work. So, yeah,
No,
thanks for
no,
doing this. Thanks for
great.
being willing to share and share so much with me and hopefully everybody who watches this.